All right. I'm not sure if anyone's out there, but I had a free night. Hi, folks. I had a free night, and I thought it might be fun. I achieved all of the things that I meant to achieve today, and I wrote, and I made dinner. And so I think before I went off to school, I thought it might be fun to come on and chat and maybe offer a couple live readings for anyone who maybe wants one. So I see Life Path 6, and I see Aileron, and I see Storm Girl Blue, and Happy Hermit. Hi, folks. So yeah, I just thought I had some time, and I would, offer a couple readings if anyone wanted one, and chat and see what's going on. So that's my thought. So if anyone's on the chat and wants to have Life Path 6, you're first to go. All right, so, sir, Life Path 6. So I'm sorry, I don't know your name, but, or I can't quite see everyone's pictures either. So I'm going to try to use gender neutral pronouns. But Life Path 6, let me know what you'd like a reading about in the chat pod. And Aileron, I'm in the middle of working on the next video. Ooh, what are you working on a video on? Hi, Lena. Okay, Robin, you'll be next. So, Elena, just let me know what you'd like a reading about, and I'll start with you. I tend to kind of wing it with these and base what I'm going to do on the question. So you just want a general reading? All right. So if you ever watch my channel, general readings are not my best my best skill, but I'll give it a go. So what I'll do for you, Elena, is I'll do let me see, how do I make this make the most sense? I'll do a card to explore like a general area, and then I'll do a 3-card to Alin, sorry. I'll do a 3-card to follow it up to see what it says. So we'll pull the first card to explore the area of opportunity. Whenever I do general readings, I like to give myself some kind of guiding, some kind of bounding box to give me a sense of what I'm really reading about. Because I feel like the more specific I am, the more specific the reading is. So for anyone who's curious, I'm working with the Japaridza deck. So, and I'll try to keep my eye on the chat at the same time. So, I don't know about you all, but I have been suffering with a crazy cold this weekend. So it's really the first day I can talk without coughing. But I still have a little bit of a fever. Alrighty. All right, Alin. So the first card we're going to look at just gives us a little bit of a bounding box for the reading. And it's hard to see because the light's bad, but it's the 4 of Fire, which is the 4 of Wands. So what I'm going to suggest that that wants us to focus on initially is an area of your life where you need some structure and stability around something you're enthusiastic about. So as I'm looking at this, Alin, think about Alin, how much it or an area of your life where something is super important to you, you're super enthusiastic about it, you have a lot of passion about it, maybe a passion project, something you really care a lot about. And that's an area where we want to explore how to get some stability in there, right? Because when our enthusiasms get the best of us, they can totally get a little diffuse. So that was our subject. So now I'm going to draw 3 cards and maybe explore a little bit about how you can, focus that energy a bit. Oh, thanks, Gabrielle. I appreciate that. Again, if I pronounce anyone's name incorrectly, I apologize. Just let me know how it's pronounced. All right, so and I'm going to try to keep a list here. So, ow, I just stabbed myself with a pen. All right, so we'll do, I think, Robin next, and then Happy Hermit. Yep, Robin and then Happy Hermit. Just taking a little note here. All right. So how do you bring stability to this part of your life? Ooh, I'm bleeding. That's embarrassing. Well, these cards are christened. I know, I'm terrible. I am used to lately using fountain pens, and when I have a ballpoint pen, it gets in the way. All right. So how do you bring some structure and stability to this passion project or this thing you're really enthusiastic about? I don't know if you can see it, but it's really warm in here. I just started sweating. All right, so we've got the King of Winds, which would be the King of Swords, the Five of Fire, and the High Priestess. So again, just let me show you these bad boys here. So again, the King of Winds is the King of Swords. We've got the Five of Fire, and we've got the High Priestess. So the question that I sort of was working with here, Lynn, was, there's this area where you could definitely use some structure, some stability on a passion project. And the first thing that strikes me in this spread of 3 that I just shared with you is that the Five of Fire shows up, and the Five of Fire is actually a really disruptive force. So while we're exploring this idea of structure and stability, the Five of Fire shows up and says that some disruption is in order to create stability, which I think is a really interesting place to start. So that's just a curious thing that I started with in seeing here. So we've got the King of Winds or the King of Swords, and we've got the High Priestess in combination with the Five of Fire. The Five of Fire is the central card for me, and it feels like there's something in it. And I think one thing that it suggests in terms of the question and this idea of stabilizing something is, I'm not going to interpret it so much in this case as disruption, but in terms of like effort, you know what I mean? So the idea of kind of reining in our energies so that we focus on one thing is really key. And it's a little bit of a fight sometimes. So if usually I work with the number a little bit more, but if we look at the kind of Rider-Waite-Smith imagery here, it's a little bit of an effort. It's a little bit of a fight. There's a push. And so in order to kind of stabilize this project or whatever this passion project is for you, it really, really requires a certain amount of energy and effort on your end, and to kind of fight out distractions, push out distractions. The King of Winds or the King of Swords is key because he talks to us about the fact that we are, we have a tendency towards the cerebral. We're really smart. We're really sharp. We know the answers. Sometimes we need to cut out all the other stuff. And surrender, I think, with the High Priestess to the mystery of it. We're not necessarily knowing where the end result is. We can't quite see that yet. But what we can see is that if we don't exert some effort and energy and push into getting what we want, and if we don't kind of cut out ruthlessly everything that's pulling our focus, we're not going to really get the energy that we need behind it to push through and get the project finished. So I think that's the first thing I would say, is that like the effort, the push, the fight to cut out everything that isn't this thing and really make it your focus will actually help stabilize this thing. The High Priestess may also suggest just like a little bit of, just using a little bit of magic to get it done too. The other thing about the King of Swords that I think is really interesting is that he, in a lot of traditional senses, there's a certain amount of sacrifice associated with that card. In order to get where we're going in life, we often have to sacrifice other things. And I've heard a story once about how our lives are sort of like a stove, and to be successful at something, you actually really have to, turn off a couple burners, and so the King of Swords knows what to turn off, what to cut out in order to really focus on the thing. So by and large, just as a quick reading, I think the thing is that there is a lot of potential around whatever this passion point is, whatever this project is. It requires that you kind of fight off anything distracting, that you really cut out anything, that you make those sacrifices, and that you surrender a little bit into the unknown of it. You can't necessarily see the long-term results of it, but that's okay. You know what I mean? Just have sort of a certain amount of faith and in the magic of getting things done. Alin, I hope that was helpful. Let me know if it was or wasn't. Sometimes I'm wrong, but that's what I got right there. And always the problem with going first when I do these things is that it sometimes requires me to warm up a little bit. So let me just catch up on the chat here quickly. So Robin, you're next if you're still on. Let's see. All right, Amy, I got ya. I know we talked about my stabbing myself with the pen. Hello, Alchemy's Arrow. Yeah, all right, so let me add and Alchemy's Arrow. Oh, good. Thanks, Alin. I'm glad. More stars. So the Tony Awards, if anyone didn't follow me, I'm a big theater nerd. I'm a playwright, and so I have very strong feelings about the Tony Awards. Excuse me. Kelly, thank you so much. That makes me so happy. Like, for real. I started making videos, I think, in 2012, and nobody watched them. And so now that people watch them and like them, it makes me feel really good. Moonlight, you miss having a tarot family. You don't have an online tarot family? I don't have a real life one really either. Let's see. Season, sorry. Yes, I know who you are. It's hard for me to remember people's like YouTube names and Facebook and Instagram names. So don't be afraid to tell me that I'm wrong, because I sometimes am. All right, so Robin, you're next. You want anything love related? So for you, let's break out the Victorian Romantic, because I have not used it for a reading for anyone else yet. So let's give that a go, since we're talking about a love relationship reading. And if you see me looking over here, it's because that's where the chat is. My webcam is on my Mac right here, but the chat I have on another monitor so that I can kind of keep track. All right, so Robin, you said anything love related, and just to make sure you are next. All right, so did you know she did King Lear? Glenda Jackson. Glenda Jackson was amazing. Just listening to her speak was amazing. The four-legged Liberace. That's what it looked like. Hi, Tosh. Hi, Eliza. Liz. Aw, thanks, cats. All right, so I'm going to do a reading for Robin now, just sort of anything love-related. So let's see what comes up. The Victorian Romantic, which again, if you saw my video, I talked about this in a couple videos, totally shocked by how much I liked this deck. Was completely and totally unprepared for liking it. Like, straight up thought, I'll get it because of fear of missing out. But I'm glad I got it. So Robin, I'm going to do a 3-card and just see what comes up. And then, I may want to expand with some more cards, but we'll see what it says. I always blame the tripod for my bad shuffles, but I can't blame it this time, can I? Hi, Claire. Hi, Christina. All right, I'm getting some bad shuffles. Here's a tip that I can give you. Sometimes when I start feeling like the cards just don't want to be shuffled anymore, I stop. Like usually when I get a couple bad shuffles in a row, that's one way I know it's time to stop. All right, so let's see what's going on with Robin's love life here. Anything love related? All right, so we start with the Ten of Pentacles. Ugh, this light is unbearable. Ten of Pentacles, Ace of Cups, Knight of Swords. So let us talk through these three cards. By the way, this is one of the most beautiful Ace of Cups ever. I don't necessarily think of it as an ace. It doesn't necessarily scream ace to me out of the gate, but I love it. So here's what I would say, and Amy, Robin, tell me if I'm wrong. But the Ten of Pentacles suggests that, this is a time right now where you have probably been through some shit. You know what I mean? Life has handed you some stuff. You've gone through it, and actually you've achieved a certain amount of experience from the things that you have gone through. The 10 suggests the end of the cycle, right? And you've been through a phase, and what this suggests is that you're coming from a lot of life experience, sort of figuring out probably your responsibilities, who you're responsible to, what you feel like you're really beholden to, and what you want to invest your energy in. And then we get the Ace of Cups. So I love, love, love that we go from a 10 to an ace, because we're literally going from one cycle to another. And because you asked about something love related, we're moving from something practical to the Ace of Cups. So we've got a little bit more of an emotional thing going on there. So actually, it's probably likely that there are going to be some kind of seeds of love life filtering into your world right now. So I think it's time, it's probably an auspicious time to start thinking about romance or love or caring for the relationships in our lives. Now, as an ace, it suggests that it's very nascent, it's very new, it's a very fresh energy, it's really just trickling in. But the Knight of Swords suggests that, you can actively go out and search for it. You can actively start making some effort. New beginning, absolutely. You can start going out and doing the things that you need to do. A lot of my single friends have told me these days, if they're looking for a romantic relationship, that looking for one is kind of a full-time job. So there's an energy of that with the Knight of Swords. But the other thing I would say too about the Knight of Swords is just to be really smart. As you go out and you start thinking about what these new beginnings are, as you start thinking about what you want your relationships to be really intelligent and thoughtful about the path you take to get there. Because the Knight of the combination, actively try, absolutely. The combination of the Ace of Cups and the Knight of Swords, I think, is really telling, right? Because the Knight of Cups would really be our sort of like romantic, dreamy, sort of wait for things to come, and a little sort of actively what's the word I'm looking for? Actively romantic. The Knight of Swords, on the other hand, is really smart. Yeah, I would say cut out everything you don't need and really just be like, you know what I mean? Like an example I'll say is, like if you're going to go and use some online dating apps, for example, and you're not the kind of person who likes to hook up, like I wouldn't go with Tinder, for example. You know what I mean? So the Knight of Swords suggests you can go out there and be active, but be really thoughtful about the things that you're going to use to find what you're looking for, if that makes sense. Is this connecting? Awesome. I just am so amazed when that happens, isn't it? Especially from a distance and when I'm doing these as I'm talking with you guys. So yeah, it seems like, it's a really good time. And I'm actually happy to be able to say that, because a lot of times when I do relationship writings, think before you do, be strategic, plan, think. I would also say, with the Knight of Swords, consider people who are probably more like mentally stimulating. You know what I mean? Like, don't go out and look for no dummies. You know what I mean? Don't settle for someone who doesn't get your mind jumping. You know what I mean? You want someone you can actually talk to at the end of the day, not just be like, you like turned on by. Good. I'm glad. Awesome. All right. So again, these are super quick, so I'm just gonna kind of do my thing. I just thought it would be fun. I haven't had a lot of client readings this month, so. All right, Amy, Happy Hermit. I think you're next. Is that right? Let's check. I think I'm gonna sneeze. Yes, Amy, feeling discouraged, starting to doubt tarot. No, that's not blasphemous. Oh my God, I'm gonna do your reading, but I'm gonna talk about that. How can I best nurture my fire and faith in tarot? I'm gonna do that reading, and I love that question. But do not consider that blasphemy. I can't even tell you the years that I spent feeling that way. Sometimes those plateau moments are actually good moments for us to rest, because we need to kind of internalize what we've learned. I'll give you an example. Unrelated to tarot, just to give you a sense of why it's actually not bad to feel that way. When I used to be an actor, I started, in my theater life as an actor before I became a writer. And I would work all the time. I was always taking classes. I was auditioning. I would take whatever gig I could get. Never really made much money. And then there came a point where everything just sort of dried up, and I started to get frustrated and feel really demotivated about it. And I just was like sick of taking classes and sick of like spending that money to like do this thing I supposedly loved. And I gave it up for about 3 years, which is a long time. But then I missed it, and I came back to it. And I was better than I'd ever been. And I think one of the reasons why is that all of those years of like putting out all my energy and expending all my energy stopped me from actually internalizing what I was learning. And it wasn't until I was able to like come in and internalize it and let all of that stuff kind of grow in the soil of, my psyche, that I got better. And I've had the same experience with tarot. So I'm going to let me just make sure that you're still on while I do that monologue. Is Amy still on? Happy Hermit, are you still on? Because I haven't seen Amy post. All right. Hopefully I haven't like given up or frozen. Seasonally Moon says, sometimes I don't read my tarot or utilize spiritual tools. Oh, good. I got you, Amy. Good. I don't read my spiritual tools to rely on a search. Yeah, sometimes, here's the thing. I think I did a video about this too. One of the weird things about being a tarot reader is that I don't often need tarot, not because I'm psychic, because I'm really like just observant of people and patterns. So sometimes I'll be asked for a reading and I'll be like, I don't need cards to tell you like, you don't need to be in this relationship. Like, it's not healthy. Good. Thanks, Amy. All right, what deck am I going to use for your question? I'm going to go back to the Jeopardy, which I've already bled on tonight. I'm not joking. I seriously have like spots of blood on the cards. I guess there's a way to christen the deck. So, Amy, how can you sort of ignite that fire and passion and your faith in tarot? Let's do 3 cards to explore that. My therapist would say while I'm shuffling, never judge how you feel or be, judgmental of it. It's telling you something. And I find that when I start to get frustrated with tarot, it's because I'm putting out too much. I'm getting burned out. And sometimes you need to do something else. Sometimes you need to get a reading, like right now. Sometimes you need to read some books or go to a conference or just take a break. It's totally okay. I tell the people who report to me at work, like, if you don't take vacation time, if you burn yourself out, you're not going to be any use to anyone. So take a damn day off. Oh, man. I've been there during auditions, or I'm like, oh, my God. Veronica Jude. How much do we adore Veronica Jude? Veronica Jude, I was watching Project Runway the other day, and there's a contestant who reminded me of you. I think it was Project Runway All-Stars. She didn't look like you, but she just had a very similar spirit. And I kept rooting for her, and I couldn't figure out why, and then I realized. All right. How can Amy find her faith and her fire in tarot? Aaron, while I'm doing this one, think about what you would like what question you'd like me to read for, because you're next up, sir. I see Liz on this chat. And I have to tell you, when we met, she gave me this smudge spray that I'm loving. So you should go to her website and get some. Alrighty, Amy, let's see. So we've got the Star, the King of Winds. King of Winds is getting a workout tonight, and the Seven of Fire. All right, I love this. So I love that we start with the Star, and I think one of the things that this suggests right out of the gate, I actually read the Star card. Can you see that? I actually read the Star card a little bit like a Lenormand version of the card, because to me it's about finding a sense of direction. So generally associated with the stars like hope and peace and quiet. To me it's like a compass. So I think the first thing this suggests is the idea of having a direction, like a step to take, Amy. So if you're feeling a little sort of faithless about it, if you're feeling your enthusiasm for it wane a little bit, the first thing I would say is set yourself a little goal, just a little bit of a sense of direction. By like X date, I want to have X thing achieved, you know? So it's like an achievable win for you. It's an achievable direction to move toward. And then the King of Swords shows up again, and I'm actually going to read him very similar to the way I did last time, which is that, you know, you may want to just try to focus on it, focus on the thing, really kind of cut out distractions and work on this goal, work on whatever this direction is. I think that you know, if you put in energy and effort, if you like get a little laser focused on this one little thing, rather than trying to boil the ocean, it makes whatever your goals are a little bit achievable. And I think that it can really go a long way. The Seven of Fire, I love that this came up because your question had the word fire in it. And it was specifically about finding your fire. And sevens for me are about going inside. They're about checking in with ourselves internally. And I think that what this might give us a clue towards, especially when you're thinking about how you set up your sense of direction for this, is like, what are the things about tarot that really excite you and that get your motor running? What excites you? Like, if you start with the things that get you excited about what this tool is, think about one of those things that you can set as your GPS and really focus on that. And just kind of, you know, I used the word sacrifice with the King of Swords earlier. You don't have to think about sacrifice as giving up, but like sacrificing, you know, rather than trying to do everything, sacrifice the everything. Focus on this one thing that really connects you to what sparks your enthusiasm and your passion for this thing. Like the North Star, Darcy, exactly. I really have come over the years to view the star as like as a GPS, as a guiding thing, as something we work toward. And I think it can have like a soothing, peaceful quality to it, certainly in some readings. But a lot of the time, to me, it's like, let's set our course, you know. And I think about, you know, the Magi or whatever, or like the ships in the ocean following the North Star. It's a sense of direction. It's a sense of purpose. It's a sense of movement. But you know, that can be totally like overwhelmed by all of the possibilities. So you pick one thing that's really exciting and interesting, and you focus on that. So Amy said this confirmed. Awesome. That, again, I'm really happy. You know, I'm always happy that happens. You know, especially given like the weird conditions of doing this online. Aimless. Yeah. There's of course you do. There's so much. You know what I mean? You could go down the Kabbalism road. You could go down the alchemical road. You can go down the fortune telling road. You can go down this road and that road. And it's like you want to do everything, but like if you know, there's an expression we use a lot at work: if everything's important, nothing's important. And when we're working, when we're learning, it's really tough to do that. You can't achieve everything all at once. So you set your course for one goal, small achievable goals. I always tell people when I train. Thank you. It's my pleasure to read for you. Elron, my real question: what's the new way I'm supposed to communicate with my guides? That's an interesting question. And I am not necessarily a skilled communicator with guides either, but let's see. I'm going to use the Japaridza again because this deck seems to be really cooking for me lately. Yes, Veronica Jude, you can do anything but not. It's a great way to put it. I'm going to start telling people that at work. Once I finish this reading for Elron, I'm going to go back and look in order at who asked for readings. It's not, you know, last time I did this, I think I had a moderator who was like telling me, but I forgot to ask for ones. And I think Melissa, who used to do that for me, is rambling around right now. All right. So Elron, I'm going to do my best to answer this question. So, you know, forgive me if it's not a great answer. Who knows? You know, I've been batting okay tonight, but let's see what they say. I wish I could do two cameras where you could see the cards laid out, but I don't know if there's a way to do that. Especially because my lighting is not only terrible, but also really unflattering. Thanks, Susanna. All right, here's what we got. The Jester of Winds. The Five of Tides. And the Sun. So interesting combo. Interesting question. I'm going to start by saying this, all right, with the Jester of Winds, who really would be the Page of Swords. I would say that, sorry, I'm like crafting my response here because it's such an interesting question. I think the first thing to do is approach your guides, approach this connection, this interaction with them in a really humble, curious way. And in a sense, to begin with like a blank slate, as though saying, I don't know anything about them. I don't know anything about my guides. I don't know anything about anything. Let me just sort of clear the slate. Let me start from one and approach it like a student who's really open and really curious and really interested. That's a card that uses significant, the Page of Swords. That's really interesting. So you start there with this sort of innocent sense of curiosity. Now, the thing that I love about you as a swords card is that I can kind of see it. Not only because of music, to me, has a swordsy quality to it, right? Because music takes the brain, you know, and transforms it into communication, transforms it into sound. So there's something really like swordsy about being a musician that I think is really cool. But you start from 1, you start from 0. And I think one thing that's really interesting, so we go into the 5 of Tides next, or the 5 of Cups, which is a card, that people really often associate with loss. I think about it as a 5 as disruption and emotions. I think that it also, the 5 of Cups to me suggests like allowing ourselves to become vulnerable to the situation and really letting go of our our need. We have a very natural inclination to control our emotions, especially if we grew up in a tradition where there was a certain amount of like restriction over how and what we should feel. That feeds into a lot of things. I just think of like the stereotype of the British, stiff upper lip sort of thing. In my case, it would be the sort of like French Canadian thing that I grew up with of like, we just don't show emotion. It's like opening ourselves up to the vulnerability of things. I think opening ourselves up even to the potential to face what we're like not constantly, that we're the things we haven't accepted that we've lost, so we sort of start there. This is really an intense question to answer. We start with like allowing ourselves to be shaken, allowing ourselves to not constrict each feeling that passes by, but to quote Stephen Sondheim, experience everything that passes by. So in the act of communication, it's almost like a meditative state of starting from square one and then just being open to every impulse, every feeling, every frustration. And I think the negative feelings, the feelings of frustration and loss, are the ones where communication is really going to, open up the sun. So we get the sun, and it's like, it opens up this new day, this new thing, this new experience of visiting the world, of experiencing the world, of communicating with things, and it, I think, may also shed light on some like unresolved stuff. You know what I mean? And that might get a little messy, but I think allowing vulnerability, allowing ourselves to be completely innocent in that vulnerability, or allowing yourself to be completely innocent in that vulnerability, may be the thing that like breaks through and like lets the light flood in terms of this work that you're doing, with your guides. Because there's such a receptive feeling, even though the swords are technically like an active suit. The Page of Swords, there's such the pages in general are so receptive and so open to and so innocent. And the Page of Swords is a student, he's a learner. He's excited about experiencing things. So it's a big question and a big answer. It sounds like I'm making some connections for you. Hopefully, I don't know that I have more to say. I love the sense of vulnerability. By the way, I love the 5 of Cups in this deck. I think, oh God, I wish I could show you guys. I'm going to turn a light on over my head in a minute. It's just so breathtaking. I adore this deck so much. So I hope that helps, my friend. And if you want to chat more a little bit, maybe I can expand on it. But I feel like those are the kernels. Good. I'm glad. All right, so let me go back up here. I think I can do 2 more. So we got Amy, we got Ellen. Season, are you still on? You were next. So Season, if you're still on, let me know. Yes. All right. Tell me your question, Alchemy's Arrow. I love doing readings. And doing them this way is actually really good for me because I think I've talked about this in some of my videos. A lot of the videos I do are video, and I don't get any sort of real-time interaction with folks, so. Oh, and Project Runway? I have to go back and look up her name. This one's Project Transparency. What should I focus on right now? Music, writing, or tarot? Ah, cool. Let's use a different deck. Let's use the 8 coins in honor of Veronica. Tarot's Alchemist. Hi, Lisa. This is another deck, like the Japaridza, that I was completely and totally gagged by. I mean, I saw it. I wanted it. I used to watch Veronica Jude's videos and see it and be completely in love with it. And then when it came out, finally, I was like, oh, I'm not really working with Rider-Waite-Smith. Then I kept not getting it, and then I got it. And I'm glad I did. All right, so season. What should you focus on, music, writing, or tarot? I mean, you know, just as a nerd, I would say find a way to use all 3, but that's probably not very helpful. Love at First Sight. I actually had 2 copies of this deck because I trimmed one, and I really like it trimmed, but I also kind of miss the borders. So I like having both ways. I still don't have the Deviant Moon. I love Hackfalenza. I don't know what it is. I like everyone I know loves that deck, and I've never really felt called to it. I used to say it's because I hate the Hermit card, and I do, but I hate the War card and the Japaridza, and I'm using that deck like crazy. Yeah, season, absolutely. Well, yeah, we can, you know, Facebook me. I know we're Facebook friends, but let's see. I mean, I think if your impulse is to use all 3, I think you should. Let's see what this reading says. I'm just gonna sort of shuffle and see what cards we get. And maybe that'll be helpful. They are dancing. I wish I could show you the shuffle. It's much more interesting than seeing my face. My sweaty face. I look like I just went to the gym. Can you see that? Like, it's just because it's hot in here and the window's open. I love when a deck does that, Lisa. Like, it just comes to life. Thank you. I love hearing cards shuffle too. It's got a very like relaxing feeling for me. There's an ASMR person that I follow who does card magic, and I find it really relaxing. This deck shuffles really well too. All right. All right, we got the Page of Cups. Got a lot of core cards tonight, a lot of pages and kings. Boy, I really wish I could make these look better. Page of Cups, 3 of Pentacles. I'm smiling because I think that's the key. And the, what is this? Oh, the Page of Swords. We've got 2 pages, and we've got the 3 of Pentacles. So, Lisa, I'm actually doing free readings for people who just requested them, because I just had some time and I felt like chatting. So this one's for Alchemy's Arrow, about focusing on music, writing, or tarot. And that Three of Pentacles to me, right out of the gate, says all three of those. How do you bring them together? How do you get those pieces collaborating on one project, one thing that's kind of bigger than all three? It's lunchtime. Oh, what are you having for lunch? Bringing those pieces together for all three, I think that's really key. We have, again, 2 pages. We get the Page of Cups and the Page of Swords. And I love that too, because I think it takes the pressure off you having to know where you're going. I think it takes the pressure of you having to know exactly how you get there, right? You know what I mean? I think what it's got to do is it's got to elicit some excitement emotionally, and it's got to like tickle your brain, but you don't have to have a fully developed idea right now. What you want to start doing is bringing these 3 pieces together and exploring them in a way, experiment, you know what I mean? One of the things that I've always liked about the Rider-Waite-Smith 3 of Pentacles is, well, first of all, this one's adorable with the 3 rodents. Love it. But what I've loved about that image is the idea that they're working on a cathedral. And a cathedral is the kind of thing you can't see until it's finished, because it took generations to build them. You know, if you think about that book, and it's now gonna completely escape. Pillars of the Earth, that one about them building the, if you think about it, whatever, if you think about a cathedral, you think about the fact that it takes generations. When that first stone gets laid, the person laying that stone may not be alive to see the final stone get laid. So you don't have to know where you're going right now. You know what I mean? What you're doing is working in service of something larger, and you start to bring the pieces together, and it excites your heart and it excites your mind, and it doesn't matter what the end result is, because it's about the journey in this case. It's about the building of something greater than you are. Not than you are, but then the 3 individual tools. By greater than you are, I'm sort of referencing the idea of the cathedral, right? Because it's greater than the people who make it up. So that's why I've always loved that 3 of Pentacles, because these 3 energies are working in service of something much larger than they could ever be individually. And I think that that is what Ken Follett, yes. I didn't see the TV series. I need to. I loved reading the first few chapters of the book, and then I put it down like I always do with novels. So yeah, I mean, Caesar, we could probably chat more if you want to, but I think it's just, you start playing, you start sort of saying, how did these 3 elements fit together in some way? And you explore it with like an innocent spirit and an open mind. I think you can't go wrong. So I think that the fact that your impulse is to do all 3 is like, that impulses speak volumes to me. When I coach writers on their plays, there's a tendency with writers to want to throw out everything in the first draft. And I'm usually, in that first draft, you were telling yourself the purest version of the story. Not the best version of the story, but the purest version. And there are impulses in that version that you really want to not throw away. So I hope that helps. I would hope the work I bring through is, yeah, that's the thing for all of us who do, I think, anything creative, right? Is that we're creating something that lasts and that has resonance, not even just that outlives us, but that lives beyond us. I think about that all the time. All right, where are we? It's 20 of 9. I can do one more. I just want to make sure I don't skip folks. Darcy, you were next. Are you still on, Darcy Rosner? Darcy, if you're on, you are my last reading for the moment. And if Darcy's not on, that's a good angle. Kelly Watson was next. So Darcy or Kelly, are you still on? Darcy's here. Darcy, hello. Darcy, tell me what you would like your reading to be about, because you are The final contestant on The Price is Right. I'm gonna turn the light on. Well, that's moderately better. You can see the mess behind me. Darcy, I can see ya. What's up? There's a delay, so keep that in mind. Darcy, what would you like your reading to be about? It's only Tuesday. Oh, God. Not good. Celtic Morning Stars quoting Sondheim. I quoted Sondheim earlier. Oh no, I won't let you type. I can see what you're typing. Why, thank you. So thank you, Season. It's not me. It's sort of this, like, this. You know, like the glow. Is everyone having a good week? Anything exciting? A halo. You know, when I was born, before I was born, my grandmother dreamt that I was born with a halo. All right. So, Darcy, I got your question. For you, I'm going to use the other deck that I've been living for right now. This is the Anima Mundi. I adore this deck. And toxic. I need a makeup artist when I do live readings or videos in general. I love the Anima Mundi deck, and I bought it and put it up on the shelf for various reasons, and I adore it. I used to buy my book after all. I mean, I'm not going to be mad at it. People buy my book. I think you're going to love it, Veronica Jude. It's really gorgeous. I'm curious to see if you trim it, because I actually like the borders. RC Cook, yes. I know you. Love the Anima Mundi. I adore this deck. I saw, this was one of the decks I backed right, like it, as soon as the Kickstarter or the Indiegogo came out, I was on it like rice. White on rice. All right, Darcy. I have some shuffling going on. So you've been having a hard time and just want to know generally where you're at. Thanks, Kelly. I love the way this deck shuffles too. Thank you. I'm smiling because earlier I said I usually stop shuffling when the deck starts giving me bad shuffles, but this deck really does because it shuffles so well. All right, Darcy, we've got the Seven of Cups, the infamous Eight of Swords, and the Magician. I love that this reading finishes with the Magician. So I'm sorry, the Six of Cups. We have the Six of Cups, the Eight of Swords, and the Magician. So here's the six. Here's the 8. And here's the Magician. Excuse me. And I just want to start with the Magician, actually, because the Magician's one of my flat-out favorite cards in the deck, and I love what he represents. And what the Magician has come to represent to me over the years has actually a lot to do with something that I read early on with Rachel Pollack in one of her books about how the Magician's sort of a conduit of energy. You know, and the Magician's an active card, but he doesn't force action. He opens himself to energy and then creates something out of it. And I think that that is a really interesting thing. You know, even just in the little bit, Darcy, that you shared in the comments here, I think that wherever you are and whatever you've been through, if you I hate giving advice, right? I hate saying sort of nebulous things like this, but if we open ourselves up to where we are and to the energy of that moment, we can often find how to construct that and make something out of it simply by being open to it rather than forcing ourselves out of it. My therapist tells me all the time, so I've talked about this a little bit, but I really suffer from severe anxiety. I'm on medication for it, but panic attacks have kind of crippled me my whole life. And my therapist said to me in the past, like, you can't, when you fight it, you're just making it worse. If you open it up, if you open yourself up to those panic attacks and you try to figure out and stay in them long enough to figure out what they're telling you, you're going to learn from them and work with them rather than against them. And so the Magician here, as the punctuation mark of the reading, as the final card, I think is kind of the key for the whole line to me, because it reminds us that wherever we are, whatever we've been through, out of that energy, because everything is energy, right? Out of that, we can actually open ourselves to it and then make something from it that's productive rather than destructive. You know what I mean? So I think about the Magician as an electricity transformer. You know, if you think about the way electricity travels, if it came right from the electric plant into our house, it would burn the house down. Transformers take that energy and they focus it and strip away, you know, what could be dangerous, and they make it into something that lights and heats our homes. So I think all of the things that you've been through are sort of the electricity. And where you are now is in a point where you're actually able to start focusing that energy on things that are going to be productive going forward. Now, as we sort of work backward from there, we've got the 8 of Swords and the 6 of Cups. The 6 of Cups, working, you know, just numerologically, really suggests that there's a lot of beauty and like good stuff going on in here, and that you're probably at a point right now where you're, if not yet, soon on the edge of like a level of emotional balance and feeling balance that may be unusual, given life, right? The 6 of Cups is such a, to me, it's like the card of feeling good, of beauty, of like peace. There's that Rider-Waite-Smith association with nostalgia. I don't necessarily think of it in terms of nostalgia because that has like a backward looking thing for me. For me, like the feeling of nostalgia is more about that like impulse of like, it's like a sigh, it's like, so that feeling is really, really a key thing to the 6. But then we get into the 8 of Swords, and that's a card that where we can really get bound up in like overthinking everything. Like we're so in the work of trying to sort things out. And this is like where it comes into conflict with the Magician, right? So where the Magician takes the energy, where the Magician takes what we've been through and makes it into something. The 8 of Swords is like, no, I have to do this. I have to force it into the thing, and I have to make this, and I have to make sense of this. Sometimes things just don't make sense, and that's okay. It's not necessarily about making sense of what hasn't made sense, but about opening ourselves up and saying, okay, this hasn't made sense. What do I do with it? What do I make out of this now? How do I not force this to make sense, but how do I make sense going forward? You know what I mean? And so I think that, the question is sort of, where are you right now? I think you're like, in a place on the edge of peace and beauty and like feeling balanced and being able to transform a lot of life's bullshit into something really productive. But the anxiety that's coming into that makes it hard to sort of settle in, and anxiety can really do that. It can really like, get in the way of our progress. So I think that you don't necessarily have to work so hard in terms of thinking things out, but rather open yourself up to feeling good. Open yourself up to that feeling of like, oh my god, I feel kind of good right now. I feel kind of at peace, And also like, what do I make out of this now? What do I make from what's happened? What has this given me? What are the tools? If you think about the magician, Kelly from The Truth and Story, I think talks about this a lot, the tools that the magician has. Life has given you all these tools to create something now. So how do you work with them? Maybe they're not the tools you would have asked for, right? If you think about the tools of the magician, a wand, a pentacle, a cup, and a sword, like not necessarily a hammer and a nail. You can't build something out of that, but you've got some tools. So what do you do with the tools you've got? How do you make something out of those? So I think that that's kind of maybe like a complex answer to a big question, but I hope that helps. I think there's a lot of good in here, and there's a lot of like possibility. It's just this needs to calm down, and that's one of the hardest things. Believe me, do I know that's how hard that is. All right, so let me just sort of come over to the comments here. Oh my God, Rescue Remedy has saved me in some public places. I take Lexapro now, which I have to say has really helped me, but Rescue Remedy has done the trick many times. Yes to the Anima Mundi. Feelings Buried Alive now. It's beautiful season. Yeah, Darcy, I get it. Like I've had those moments in my life. I mean, I lived a winter without heat once, and it was like I could not. Not only did I go without heat, like my pipes froze and I got kicked out of my apartment because it wasn't insulated. You know what I mean? Like I had these times, and then I look back on those times, and I was like, oh, you know what came out of that was that it made me a more empathetic reader, and it made me a better budgeter going forward. I think you're on the edge of that magician. And sometimes we just have to like be open to the fact that the magician is already working. And in a way that's like it's kind of an answer I hate giving because it's a little more new agey than maybe I am. But again, I think it's there. It wouldn't show up if it wasn't. It's just sort of being open to it as part of the journey. Bye, Lisa. Thank you all, and thanks for your kind words. Oh my God. Thank you. It doesn't feel easy. In fact, I always get nervous when I do these because I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna fuck it up. People are gonna see what a fraud I am. So, yeah, gosh, I feel for you. I do. I'm sending my good thoughts your way because I definitely have been there, and it just in the middle of it, there's just it just sucks, and sometimes it's helpful to like hear people say, you know what, sometimes the stuff that sucks really just sucks. Thank you all for playing tonight. Again, I think yes. Well, yeah. You know what the funny thing about imposter syndrome is like we care about doing well, and I think people who don't care actually are less likely to feel that, but maybe not as likely to do good work because we want to be helpful. We want to be good. Yes, Susanna, it's working. These things, all of these are in us already. It's just a matter of like which ones want to come out and play at any given time. So thanks, Liz. So I'm gonna head off and start settling in for the night. Thank you for chatting with me, and again, I'm going away on Saturday for my master's degree, but I'll be back in August and hope to do more of these. Darcy, I do readings. I have an Etsy shop. I do readings, like video readings, online. If you go to any of my videos, the links are in there, but I'll try to remember to go back and put it in this one. Thank you. Oh my God. Thank you guys. You're making my night. I promise I didn't come on to do this to get compliments, but I'm going to take them. All right. Have a great night, everyone. Be well. Take care of yourselves. Be kind to each other. And we'll talk soon.